The dawn light is thin and gray when Ara hears the footsteps. She presses her spine against the rough planks of the hut wall, breath shallow, every muscle locked. The air smells of rotting thatch and old smoke. Her fingers dig into the dirt floor, nails scraping stone, and she counts the seconds between each footfall. 2 sets, moving slow, deliberate. They stop just outside the door. She closes her eyes and wills herself invisible. It's a foolish hope. She knows that. But hope is all she has left, and it's worn thin as the blanket wrapped around her shoulders. A voice breaks the silence. Low, calm, male. Ara. Her name on a stranger's lips feels like a brand. She flinches, though no one can see. We're not here to hurt you. The voice is steady, warm even, but she's heard warmth before. She's heard promises that turn to ash. A second voice joins the first, rougher around the edges, but just as controlled. We know you're frightened. We only want to talk. She recognizes the cadence, the slight roll of consonants. Border pack. The twins. Her chest tightens. She ran for 3 days to escape this. 3 days through forest and rock, sleeping in tree hollows, drinking from streams that tasted of iron and earth. She thought she'd covered her scent. Thought she'd been careful. She was wrong. Ara, please. The first voice again, softer now. We scented your fear 3 nights ago. We've been looking for you since. She swallows hard, tasting dust. Her sister's face flashes behind her eyelids. Pale, bruised, broken. The marking ceremony had taken everything from her. Everything. Ara will not let it take her too. Go away, she whispers, and her voice cracks on the second word. Silence stretches outside. She hears the wind move through the trees, the faint call of a bird somewhere distant. Then footsteps again, closer, just on the other side of the thin wooden door. My name is Kale, the first voice says. My brother is Veyron. We're from the western border pack. We mean you no harm. Liars. The word comes out stronger this time, edged with something sharper than fear. Anger, maybe, or desperation. No, the second voice. Veyron, steady and sure. Not liars. We don't do things the way your old pack did. Her breath catches. They know. Somehow, they know where she came from. We don't force bonds here, Kale continues. We don't mark without consent, and we don't hunt people who run. Then why are you here? She shifts forward just an inch, voice rising. Why did you follow me? Because you were alone, Veyron says simply, and afraid. And we couldn't let that stand. She laughs, bitter and short. So you tracked me down to tell me you're the good ones? That I should trust you because you say so? Kale's voice gentles. No, we tracked you down to offer you shelter. A choice. Something you didn't have before. Ara stares at the door. It's barely holding together, warped wood and rusted hinges. If they wanted in, they could break it down in seconds. She knows that. They know that. But they're still standing on the other side. Talking. Waiting. I saw what your kind does, she says quietly, and the anger drains away, leaving only exhaustion. I watched my sister go into that ceremony hole and come out, broken. She begged them to stop. She begged. Her voice fractures. She presses a fist to her mouth, willing herself not to cry. Not here. Not in front of them. Silence again. Longer this time. When Kale speaks, his tone has changed. It carries weight now. Grief, maybe. Understanding. I'm sorry, he says. I'm so sorry that happened to her. To you. Sorry doesn't fix anything, Ara whispers. No. Veyron agrees. It doesn't. But we're not them, and we're not leaving until you hear us out. She closes her eyes again, resting her forehead against her knees. Every part of her aches. Her feet are blistered from running. Her ribs throb where she fell 2 nights ago, scrambling down a hillside in the dark. She's hungry, thirsty, so tired she can barely think straight. And she's trapped. Not by them, not yet, but by circumstance. By the simple fact that she can't keep running forever. "What do you want from me?" she asks, and the question comes out small. "Defeated, nothing you're not willing to give," Kale says. "We want to offer you a place to rest, food, safety. And when you're ready, if you're ready, we want to tell you about our pack, about how things work where we come from. And if I say no, then we'll take you to the human border." Veyron replies without hesitation. "We'll make sure you get there safely, and we'll leave you in peace." Ara lifts her head slowly. She studies the door as if she can see through it, as if she can read the truth in their faces from here. She wants to believe them. God, she wants to believe them so badly it hurts. But belief is dangerous. Trust is a trap. She learned that the hard way. "I don't know you," she says finally. "No," Kale agrees. "You don't. But we'd like you to, if you'll let us try." She sits very still, weighing her options. She could refuse, could tell them to go and pray they actually listen. But then what? She has no food left, no water, no plan beyond hide and hope. Or she could open the door. If stories of second chances touch your heart, please subscribe and stay with me for more like this. Her hand trembles as she reaches for the latch. She pauses there, fingers hovering over cold metal. "If I open this door," she says slowly, "you stay where you are. You don't come in unless I say so." "Agreed," Kale says immediately. "Agreed," Veyron echoes. Ara takes one long breath, then another. Then she lifts the latch and pulls the door open just enough to see outside. 2 men stand in the clearing before her. Tall, broad-shouldered. Identical in build, but different enough in presence that she can tell them apart even at a glance. The one on the left, Kale, has dark hair tied back, sharp features softened by patient eyes. He holds both hands out, palms up, a gesture of peace. The one on the right, Veyron, is rougher. His hair is loose, jaw shadowed with stubble, but his gaze is steady, kind even. Neither moves toward her. They just wait. Ara grips the edge of the door, knuckles white, and meets their eyes one at a time. She doesn't trust them. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But she's so tired of being alone. "Talk," she says quietly. "I'll listen. But that's all I'm promising." Kale nods once, slow and deliberate. "That's enough." Kale lowers himself onto a flat stone a few paces from the door, movements unhurried. Veyron mirrors him, settling onto the ground with his back against a birch tree. Both keep their distance, and Ara feels the space between them like a gift. She doesn't leave the threshold, just leans against the doorframe, arms wrapped tight around herself, and waits. Kale speaks first. His voice is quiet, meant only for her. "You came from the Eastridge pack." It's not a question, but she nods anyway. Her throat is too dry for words. "We heard stories," he continues, "about the way they conduct their ceremonies, about the damage." Ara's jaw tightens. Damage. Such a small word for what she witnessed, for what her sister became. "My sister was marked 3 months ago," she says, and the words taste like blood. She didn't want it, she told them. She begged them to wait, to let her choose, but they said the bond was already decided, that she had no right to refuse. Veyron's expression darkens, but he doesn't interrupt. They held her down, Ara whispers. 4 of them. The alpha who claimed her. He didn't care that she was crying. Didn't care that she was breaking. He just took what he wanted. Her voice cracks. She presses her lips together hard, willing herself to stay steady. When it was over, she couldn't speak for 2 days. When she finally did, she wasn't her anymore. Something inside her died that night. And a week later, she walked into the river and didn't come back out. Silence falls between them, thick and terrible. Kale's hands curl into fists against his knees, but his voice stays gentle. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry you lost her that way. They called it an accident, Ara says bitterly. Said she slipped, that the current took her. But I know. I saw her face that morning. She'd made her choice. Veyron leans forward, elbows on his knees. And you ran before they could do the same to you. They were planning my ceremony, she confirms. Next full moon. The Alpha's son. I couldn't. She stops, breath hitching. The memory of that conversation still burns. The way they'd spoken about her like she was property. Like her consent was irrelevant. A formality at best. So I left, she finishes. 3 nights ago. I took what I could carry and I ran. Kale nods slowly. That's when we scented you. You crossed through our territory just before dawn. You were moving fast, scared, and we knew. We knew something was wrong. We started tracking you then. Veyron adds, not to bring you back, not to claim you, just to make sure you were safe. Ara studies them both, searching for the lie, for the crack in the facade. But their faces are open. Honest. It terrifies her how much she wants to believe them. Why? She asks. Why would you care what happens to me? Kale meets her gaze, steady and sure. Because no one should have to run alone. And because what happened to your sister? That's not how bonds are supposed to work. How are they supposed to work then? The question comes out sharper than she intends, edged with challenge. He doesn't flinch. With choice, with trust, with time. Veyron picks up the thread, voice low and firm. In our pack, bonds are voluntary, always. Both parties have to consent freely and without coercion. If either person refuses, the bond doesn't happen. No punishment, no shame, just acceptance. Ara wants to laugh, wants to call them liars and slam the door. But something in their voices stops her. Something that sounds almost like truth. I've never heard of a pack like that, she says quietly. They're rare, Kale admits. Most territories still follow the old ways. Forced bonds, arranged matches. But our father changed things when he became Alpha. He believed bonds should be built, not taken. And you believe that too? We do, Veyron says simply. We've seen what happens when bonds are forced. We've seen the damage, and we vowed never to be part of that. Ara shifts her weight, exhaustion pressing down on her shoulders. She wants to sit, but sitting feels like surrender, like letting her guard down too soon. Tell me about your pack, she says instead. How it works. What happens to unmated wolves? Kale's expression softens. Unmated wolves are free to live however they choose. Some bond, eventually. Some don't. No one pressures them either way. And if someone wants to leave, they can. We don't hold people against their will. That doesn't sound real, Ara murmurs. I know, he says gently, but it is. I promise you it is. Veyron tilts his head, studying her. You have a scar on your wrist. May I ask how you got it? Ara's hand flies to her left wrist instinctively, fingers covering the thin white line, that runs from her pulse point to the base of her thumb. She'd almost forgotten about it. Almost. "My sister gave it to me," she says slowly. "The night before her ceremony, she was panicking, trying to run. I tried to stop her, not because I wanted her to stay, but because I knew they'd catch her. They always catch runners. And when I grabbed her arm, she had a knife. She didn't mean to hurt me. She just lashed out." Her throat tightens. "I still have her blood under my nails from bandaging her that night. And 2 days later, she was gone." Cale's jaw works, but he stays silent. Veyron's voice is rough when he speaks. "You tried to save her." "I failed," Ara whispers. "No," he says firmly. "You loved her. You fought for her. That's not failure." Tears prick at the corners of her eyes, hot and unwelcome. She blinks them back, refusing to let them fall. "Not here. Not in front of strangers." But Cale's next words are so gentle they almost break her. "You don't have to carry that alone anymore." She shakes her head, a sharp, jerky motion. "I don't even know you." "Not yet," he agrees. "But you could, if you let us try." Ara looks between them, these two men who tracked her through the forest, who stood outside her door and waited instead of breaking it down, who speak of choice and consent like they're sacred things. She wants to trust them. God, she wants to. But trust is a blade that's cut her before, and the wounds are still fresh. "I need proof," she says finally. "Not words. Proof." Cale nods once. "What would that look like for you?" She hesitates, then takes a breath. "You said you'd take me to the human border if I asked. Prove it. Show me the way. Walk me halfway there, and if I still want to go, let me leave. No argument, no guilt. Just let me go." Veyron and Cale exchange a glance, something passing between them that she can't read. Then Cale turns back to her, expression serious. "We can do that," he says. "But first, let me offer you something else. Let me come inside, alone, and sit with you. Just for a few minutes. Veyron will stay out here. You can ask me anything you want, and I'll answer. And if you still want to leave after that, we'll take you. No questions asked." Ara's heart hammers against her ribs. Letting him in feels like opening a door she might not be able to close again. But she's so tired. And he's offering her control. A choice. She steps back, just far enough to let him through. "Just you. And you sit by the door. Not near me." Cale rises slowly, palms still open. Agreed. He crosses the threshold, and the hut feels impossibly small with him inside. Cale settles onto the floor just inside the door, back against the wall, knees drawn up loosely. He keeps his hands visible, resting on his knees, and doesn't look directly at her. Instead, his gaze drifts to the small pile of belongings she's gathered in the corner. A worn pack, a water skin, a blanket with frayed edges. Ara stays pressed against the far wall, as much distance between them as the tiny space allows. Her pulse thrums in her throat, rabbit-quick, and she hates how obvious her fear must be. "Ask me anything," Cale says quietly. "I'll answer honestly." She studies him for a long moment. In the dim light filtering through gaps in the walls, she can see him more clearly now. Dark hair tied back with a leather cord. Strong jaw, eyes the color of winter moss. There's a scar along his collarbone, barely visible above the collar of his shirt, and she wonders briefly what left it. "How do bonds work in your pack?" she asks finally. "The real process, not just the ideals." He nods as if he expected that question. When two people feel drawn to each other, they spend time together. Weeks, usually. Sometimes months. They talk. They learn each other. And if both decide they want to bond, they go to the elder who mediates such things. And then, the elder speaks with each of them separately, asks if they're certain, if there's any doubt, any pressure, any fear. The process stops. No bond happens. No shame attached to walking away. Ara's fingers dig into her upper arms. What if one person wants it and the other doesn't? Then it doesn't happen, Kale says simply. A bond requires two willing hearts. Anything less is a violation. The word hangs in the air between them. Violation. Not ceremony, not tradition. Violation. She swallows hard. In my pack, they said bonds were sacred. That refusing one was a betrayal of the pack itself. That's a lie they tell to justify taking what they want, Kale replies, and there's steel beneath the gentleness now. Bonds are sacred, but only when they're chosen. Force destroys the very thing they claim to honor. Ara shifts her weight, legs aching from standing so long. She doesn't sit. Not yet. But she leans back against the wall, just a little, and lets some of the tension ease from her shoulders. You said your father changed things, she says. What was it like before? Kale's expression darkens. Like your pack, arranged bonds, forced ceremonies. My father's own bond was arranged when he was 19. He and my mother, they grew to care for each other eventually, but it took years. And he saw what happened to others who weren't as fortunate. Wolves who were bonded to people they despised, who lived in misery because tradition demanded it. So he changed the rules? He did. When he became alpha, he made it law. Voluntary bonds only. Full consent required. Some of the older wolves protested, said he was destroying pack structure. But he held firm. And over time, the pack became stronger for it, happier, more stable. Ara wants to believe him, wants to imagine a place where she could exist without fear, without the constant weight of expectation and threat pressing down on her. But hope is dangerous. What about unmated alphas? She asks. Don't they need bonds? For stability or power or whatever reason packs use to justify it? Kale shakes his head. Bonds aren't about power where we come from. They're about partnership, companionship, love, if you're lucky. An alpha can lead just as well unmated. Veyron and I have been helping run the pack for 3 years now, and neither of us is bonded. Why not? He's quiet for a moment, gaze distant. Because we haven't found anyone who feels right. Anyone who wants us as much as we'd want them. And we won't settle for less. Ara studies the scar on her wrist, tracing the thin line with her thumb. Her sister's face flashes in her mind again. Pale, hollow, broken. My sister tried to tell them she didn't want it, she says softly. She tried so hard, but they didn't listen. They said she was just nervous, that she'd be grateful once it was done, that every woman feels that way at first. Kale's hands curl into fists. They were wrong. And what they did to her, there's no justification for it. None. They'll come looking for me, Ara murmurs. When they realize I'm gone, they'll want me back. They won't find you, Kale says firmly. Not if you don't want them to. Our territory is protected. And if you choose to stay with us, we'll make sure you're safe. And if I choose to leave, then we'll honor that. I meant what I said outside. If you want to go to the human border, we'll take you. We'll make sure you have supplies, money, everything you need to start over. And then we'll leave you in peace. Ara meets his eyes, searching for deception, for the hidden agenda. But all she sees is steady conviction. He means it. She can feel the truth of it in her bones. "Why are you doing this?" she whispers. "You don't know me. You don't owe me anything." Cale holds her gaze. "Because you deserve better than what you've been given. And because Veyron and I, we've seen too many people suffer under the old ways. If we can offer you something different, something safe, then we will. Even if you never choose us. Even if you walk away and we never see you again, you still deserve the choice." Tears burn at the corners of her eyes again. She blinks them back, but one escapes, tracking hot down her cheek. She swipes at it angrily, hating the weakness. "I'm scared," she admits, voice barely audible. "I know," Cale says gently. "You have every reason to be. I don't know how to trust anymore." "Then don't. Not yet. Just let us prove ourselves. One step at a time." Ara takes a shaky breath. She's so tired, so hungry, so desperate for rest that she can barely think straight. And here is this man, offering her a sliver of hope, a possibility of something other than running until her feet bleed and hiding until she's found. Maybe she's a fool for even considering it, but maybe being a fool is better than being alone. "I want to hear from Veyron," she says finally. "If he's really willing to let me go if I ask. I want to hear him say it. Not through a wall. Here, face to face." Cale nods slowly. "All right. I'll call him in, but only if you're comfortable with that. If you'd rather I step out and send him in alone, I will." Ara considers. Two men in this small space will feel suffocating, overwhelming. But if they're both here, she can watch them both, can see how they are together, whether their words match their actions when they think she's not looking. "Both of you," she says, "but you stay by the door. He sits across from you, and I stay here." "Agreed." Cale rises smoothly, moving to the doorway. He doesn't turn his back on her completely, just shifts enough to call out. "Veyron, she wants to talk to you. Come in slowly. Sit across from me." Veyron appears in the doorway a moment later, tall frame silhouetted against the morning light. He steps inside carefully, gaze finding Ara first, checking that she's all right. Then he lowers himself to the floor across from his brother, mirroring Cale's posture. Hands visible, non-threatening. The hut feels impossibly full now, 3 people in a space meant for 1. But Ara doesn't tell them to leave. Instead, she looks at Veyron and asks the question that will decide everything. "Cale says you'll let me walk away if I choose to. Is that true?" Veyron meets her eyes without hesitation. "Yes, absolutely. No conditions, no guilt. If you want to leave, we'll make sure you can." Ara watches his face, searching for the flicker of doubt, the crack in the mask. But Veyron's expression remains steady, open. There's a weight in his eyes she hadn't noticed from outside, something deeper than simple conviction. "Why?" she asks. "You tracked me for 3 days. Why would you do that just to let me go?" Veyron's jaw tightens, and for a moment he looks away, gaze settling on some distant point beyond the warped walls. When he speaks, his voice carries a roughness that wasn't there before. "Because I know what it's like to lose someone to a bond they didn't want." The words fall between them like stones. Ara goes very still. Cale shifts slightly, a subtle movement of support, but says nothing. This is Veyron's story to tell. Her name was Lena. Veyron continues quietly. "We met when I was 20. She was from a neighboring pack, visiting for a treaty gathering. We spent 3 days together, just talking, walking, getting to know each other. And by the 3rd day, I knew she was the one I wanted." His hands curl against his knees, knuckles pale. She felt it too. I could see it in her eyes. The way she looked at me. The way she laughed. We talked about what it would take for her to transfer to our pack. About building a life together. About choosing each other. Ara's throat tightens. She can already hear the ending in his voice. But when she went back to her pack and told her alpha she wanted to leave, he refused. Said she was too valuable. That her bloodline was needed for the pack's strength. And before she could argue, before she could fight back, he arranged a bond for her. Forced it through in less than a week. Veyron's voice drops lower, each word deliberate. She sent me one message. Just 5 words. I'm sorry. I love you. And then nothing. I tried to reach her, tried to negotiate with her alpha. But he wouldn't even meet with me. Said it was pack business, and I had no claim. What happened to her? Ara whispers. She stayed bonded for 2 years, Veyron says. I heard reports. Through travelers. Through wolves who knew her. She was diminished. Like someone had taken all the light out of her and left just the shell. And then one day she challenged her bonded mate in front of the whole pack. Called the bond false. Demanded it be broken. His expression hardens. He killed her for it. Right there. Said she dishonored him. Dishonored the bond. And her alpha let it stand. Called it justice. Silence fills the hut, thick and suffocating. Ara presses her hand to her mouth, bile rising in her throat. I'm sorry, she manages. Veyron shakes his head. I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I'm telling you because I want you to understand. I've seen what forced bonds do. I've lost someone I cared about because she had no choice. And I made a vow that day. I will never claim anyone who doesn't want me. I will never be the reason someone loses their freedom. And I will never stand by while someone else suffers the way she did. He meets Ara's eyes, and the intensity in his gaze nearly undoes her. So when I say we'll let you go if that's what you want, I mean it. Not because we're trying to earn your trust with pretty words, but because I would rather spend the rest of my life unmated than force someone into a bond they don't choose. Ara's legs finally give out. She slides down the wall until she's sitting, arms wrapped around her knees, and just breathes. Her whole body aches. Her mind spins. Everything she thought she knew about alphas, about bonds, about pack law, these 2 men are unraveling it all with their quiet honesty. I watched my sister die because of a bond she didn't want, she says softly. And you lost someone for the same reason. So what happens now? What happens to people like us, who've seen too much to ever believe in bonds again? Kale shifts forward slightly, still keeping distance but closing the gap just enough to feel present. You heal, as much as you can, and you decide what kind of life you want. Maybe that includes a bond someday. Maybe it doesn't. But it's your choice, always. And if I can't heal, Ara asks, if I'm too broken, then you're still worth protecting. Veyron says firmly, still worth caring about. Healing isn't a requirement for being treated with respect. Ara closes her eyes, letting the words settle. She's so tired of carrying this weight alone. Tired of running. Tired of being afraid. But the fear doesn't just disappear because 2 kind men showed up and said the right things. Fear has roots, and hers go deep. If I come with you, she says slowly, to your pack, what happens? What would my life look like? Kale considers the question carefully. You'd have your own space. A room in one of the houses, or a small cabin if you prefer solitude. You'd eat with the pack if you wanted, or alone if that felt safer. No one would pressure you to bond. No one would touch you without permission. You'd be free to come and go as you pleased. And if your pack doesn't want me there, if they see me as a risk, They won't, Veyron says. We've taken in others who were running. Wolves who needed safety. Our pack understands that not everyone comes from good circumstances. They'll welcome you, give you space, let you find your footing. Ara lifts her head, studying them both. Kale with his patient steadiness. Veyron with his quiet intensity. They're so different from the alphas she grew up around. Different from the men who held her sister down and called it tradition. I need time, she says finally. I need to think. You can have all the time you need, Kale replies gently. But you should eat first. And rest. You're exhausted. When was the last time you had a full meal? Ara tries to remember and can't. 2 days? 3? She's been rationing what little she brought, stretching it as far as possible. I have food with me, she admits. Not much, but enough. Veyron reaches slowly into the pack, slung across his shoulder, and pulls out a cloth-wrapped bundle. We brought extra. Bread, dried meat, cheese. It's yours if you want it. No strings. He sets the bundle on the floor between them, then slides it gently toward her. It stops just within her reach. Ara stares at it. Her stomach clenches with hunger, but her mind screams caution. Accepting food feels like accepting obligation, like stepping into a trap she won't see until it's too late. But she's so hungry, and they're offering freely. She reaches out slowly, fingers brushing the cloth. Neither man moves. They just wait, giving her space to decide. She pulls the bundle into her lap and unwraps it carefully. The scent of fresh bread nearly makes her dizzy. She tears off a small piece and eats it slowly, tasting every bite. It's good, simple but good. Real food, not the stale crackers and dried berries she's been surviving on. Thank you, she whispers. Kale nods. You're welcome. Veyron leans back against the wall, giving her more space. Take your time. Eat. Rest if you need to. We're not going anywhere until you're ready to talk again. Ara eats another piece of bread, then some of the cheese. Her hands are shaking, but not from fear this time. From relief. From the simple, overwhelming kindness of being given food without demand. Of being offered rest without expectation. She looks at them both, these twin alphas who tracked her through the forest and waited outside her door, who speak of loss and choice and healing like they understand what those words really mean. If I say yes, she says quietly, if I agree to come with you and see your pack, I need one promise. Name it, Veyron says. If I change my mind, if I decide I can't stay, you let me leave. No guilt, no disappointment. You take me to the border like you said, and you let me go. Kale meets her gaze, steady and sure. You have our word, both of us. If you want to leave, we'll help you go. That promise stands no matter what happens next. Ara takes a shaky breath. Her sister's face flashes in her mind one more time. But this time, instead of pain, she feels something else. Something that might be permission. To try. To hope. To choose a different path than the one that destroyed them both. All right, she says softly. I'll come with you, but just to see. Just to meet your pack and hear what they have to say. I'm not promising anything beyond that. Veyron's expression eases, relief flickering across his features. That's more than enough. They leave the hut just after midday, when the sun is high enough to cut through the canopy in slanted beams. Ara moves slowly, each step deliberate, testing the ground before committing her weight. Her legs are stiff from days of hiding, muscles protesting the sudden demand for movement. Kale walks ahead, Not far, just enough to break trail through the underbrush. Veyron stays a few paces behind her, close enough to help if needed, but far enough to give her space. She feels the shape of their protection without the pressure of it, and something in her chest loosens just slightly. The forest smells of pine and damp earth. Birdsong filters down from above, punctuated by the rustle of leaves in the breeze. It's peaceful here, quieter than the territory she ran through before, where every snap of a twig felt like pursuit. "How far is it?" she asks, voice rough from disuse. 3 hours at a steady pace, Cale replies without turning, but we can stop as often as you need. Ara nods, though he can't see her. 3 hours? She can manage that. She's run farther on less food and no sleep. This is just walking, just moving forward instead of hiding. But her ankle throbs with each step, a sharp reminder of the fall 2 nights ago. She'd slipped on wet rocks crossing a stream in the dark, twisting it badly enough that she'd bitten through her lip to keep from crying out. She's been favoring it since, wrapping it tight with strips torn from her blanket, but the swelling hasn't gone down. She tries to hide the limp, tries to keep her gait even. But after 20 minutes, Veyron's voice comes from behind her, low and careful. "You're hurt." It's not a question. Ara stops walking, shoulders tensing. "I'm fine." "You're limping," he says. "Your left ankle. How bad is it?" She doesn't turn around, just stands there, staring at Cale's back a dozen paces ahead. He's stopped, too, waiting, though he hasn't looked back yet. "It's nothing," she says. "Just a twist. I can walk." "No one's saying you can't," Veyron replies gently. "But if it's bothering you, we should tend it before it gets worse." Ara's jaw tightens. She doesn't want to be weak. Doesn't want to be the reason they slow down or stop or decide she's too much trouble. But the pain is getting sharper with each step, and she knows pushing through it will only make things worse. "There's a clearing just ahead," Cale says, finally turning to face her. "We can rest there. Check your ankle. It won't take long." She wants to argue. Wants to prove she can keep going without help. But the truth is, she's exhausted, and her ankle is screaming, and the idea of sitting down for even a few minutes sounds like mercy. "Fine," she says quietly. "But just for a minute." Cale nods and leads them forward. The clearing opens up around a fallen log, mossy and wide enough to serve as a bench. Sunlight pools in the center, warm and golden, and Ara feels some of the cold fear in her chest ease at the sight of it. She lowers herself onto the log carefully, extending her left leg in front of her. The makeshift bandage is stained with dirt and sweat, the fabric stretched thin from constant use. Cale crouches a few feet away, setting his pack down. "May I look at it?" Ara hesitates. Letting him touch her, even for something as simple as checking an injury, feels like crossing a line. But she's come this far, and if she's going to trust them at all, she has to start somewhere. "All right," she says. Cale moves closer, settling onto his knees in front of her. His hands are steady as he reaches for the bandage, fingers brushing her calf with careful pressure. "Tell me if anything hurts." He unwraps the fabric slowly, revealing the swollen joint beneath. The skin is mottled with bruises, deep purple fading to yellow at the edges. Cale's expression tightens, but he doesn't speak, just presses gently around the bone, testing for breaks. Ara hisses when he touches the worst of it, and he pulls back immediately. "It's not broken," he says, "but it's badly sprained. You shouldn't have been walking on it like this." "I didn't have a choice," she replies, voice sharper than she intends. "I know," Cale says gently, "but you do now." He reaches into his pack and pulls out a small jar of salve, the kind used for bruises and inflammation. "This will help with the swelling. And I have a proper bandage. It'll support the joint better than cloth strips." Ara watches as he opens the jar, the scent of herbs rising between them. Comfrey. Arnica. Things her mother used to keep in the kitchen for small injuries. The memory stings, sharp and unexpected, and she pushes it away. Cale scoops a small amount of salve onto his fingers, then pauses. I'm going to apply this now. It might sting at first, but it'll ease quickly. She nods, bracing herself. His touch is careful, deliberate. He smooths the salve over her ankle with gentle pressure, working it into the bruised skin without causing more pain than necessary. Ara watches his hands, the way they move with quiet competence, and feels something unfamiliar stir in her chest. Not desire. Not yet. But something softer. A recognition that he's taking care of her without expectation, that his touch is about comfort, not control. When he finishes, he wraps her ankle with a clean bandage, securing it snugly but not too tight. Then he sits back on his heels, meeting her eyes. Better? Yes, she admits. Thank you. Veyron has been standing at the edge of the clearing, keeping watch, but now he turns and approaches. He carries a water skin in one hand, offering it to her without a word. Ara takes it and drinks deeply, the cool water soothing her parched throat. She hadn't realized how thirsty she was until now. We should rest here for a bit longer, Veyron says. Give your ankle time to settle before we move on. Ara wants to protest, but she's too tired to argue. And truthfully, the idea of sitting in the sunlight for a little while longer sounds like something she didn't know she needed. She leans back against the log, closing her eyes and letting the warmth soak into her skin. The forest hums around her, alive and indifferent, and for the first time in days, she doesn't feel hunted. Cale settles onto the ground a few feet away, leaning against a tree. Veyron stays standing, arms crossed, gaze sweeping the trees with quiet vigilance. Neither of them speaks. They just let her rest, let her breathe. Minutes pass, maybe 10, maybe more. Ara loses track of time in the stillness. Her body relaxes incrementally, muscles unclenching one by one, and she realizes with a start that she feels almost safe. It's a dangerous feeling. One she can't afford to trust completely. But it's there, real and undeniable, and she doesn't push it away. When she finally opens her eyes, Cale is watching her. Not intrusively, just checking that she's all right. Ready? He asks. Ara tests her ankle gently, rolling it in a slow circle. The bandage holds firm, and the pain has dulled to a manageable ache. Yes, I think so. She stands carefully, and Veyron is there instantly, hand extended in case she stumbles. She doesn't take it, but the offer steadies her anyway. They resume walking, slower this time, and Ara finds the pace easier. Her ankle still protests, but the support helps, and she's able to move without limping as badly. Cale leads them along a narrow trail that winds through dense trees, the path worn smooth by years of use. Veyron stays close, and once, when Ara's foot catches on a root and she stumbles forward, he's there. His hand closes around her elbow, steadying her before she can fall. The touch is brief, warm. His grip firm but not tight, holding just long enough to make sure she's stable before letting go. Thank you, she murmurs. Any time, he replies. And the simplicity of it, the lack of expectation or demand, makes her chest tighten with something she's afraid to name. They walk on, the sun shifting lower through the trees, and Ara feels the first stirrings of something fragile taking root inside her. Not trust, not yet, but the beginning of it. The tentative hope that maybe, just maybe, these two men mean what they say. That maybe she doesn't have to run anymore. The lodge appears through the trees just as the sun begins its descent toward the horizon. It's smaller than Ara expected, built of weathered timber with smoke rising from a stone chimney. Wildflowers grow along the foundation, untamed and bright, and the whole structure feels more like a home than a seat of power. Ara slows her steps as they approach, her heart picking up speed. This is real now. No more walking, no more delay. Whatever happens next will decide everything. Kale glances back at her, reading the hesitation in her face. The elder's name is Marin. She's been mediating bonds for 30 years. She's fair, kind, and she won't push you toward anything you don't want. Ara nods, though her throat feels too tight to speak. Her hands curl into fists at her sides, nails biting into her palms. She's come this far, she can take one more step, then another. Veyron moves beside her, close enough that she can feel the warmth of him, and his voice is low when he speaks. "You're safe here, I promise." She wants to believe him. She does believe him, in some fragile corner of her heart that hasn't been crushed yet. But belief and trust are different things, and trust takes more than promises. They reach the door, and Kale knocks twice, a steady rhythm that sounds almost ceremonial. A moment passes, then the door swings open to reveal a woman in her 60s, silver hair braided over one shoulder, sharp eyes that miss nothing. Kale. Veyron. Her gaze shifts to Ara, and something softens in her expression. "And you must be Ara." Ara's breath catches. "You know my name?" "They sent word ahead," Marin says gently. "Told me to expect a young woman who'd been running, who needed safety and time." She steps back, opening the door wider. "Come in, all of you." Ara crosses the threshold, and the warmth inside envelops her immediately. A fire burns low in the hearth, casting golden light across simple furniture and walls lined with shelves of books and bundled herbs. It smells like cedar and chamomile, calming and grounding all at once. Marin closes the door behind them, and the sound of the latch falling into place makes Ara's pulse spike. She turns sharply, watching as Marin slides a heavy bolt across the frame, locking them inside. Panic flares hot and immediate. Her hands fly to her sides, searching for something, anything she can use as a weapon. But there's nothing. Just her and two alphas, and an elder who's just sealed the only exit. "Wait," she says, voice rising. "Why did you lock the door?" Marin turns to face her, expression calm but firm. "Because what happens here must happen without interruption. No one leaves until you've given your answer. Not them. Not you. Not me." Ara's chest tightens, air coming too fast. "You said I had a choice. You said I could walk away if I wanted." "You do," Kale says quickly, stepping forward but not too close. "And you can." But Marin's right. This conversation needs to happen without the threat of running, without the fear of being chased. "You're safe here, Ara. Truly safe. No one will hurt you. No one will force you. But we need you to hear us fully before you decide." "And if I decide to leave?" she demands, hating the tremor in her voice. "What then? You unlock the door and let me go?" "Yes," Veyron says. "Exactly that." Marin moves to the center of the room, gesturing to the chairs arranged near the fire. "Sit, all of you, please!" Ara doesn't move. Her legs feel locked in place, every instinct screaming at her to fight, to flee, to do anything but stay in this locked room with people she doesn't know. But Kale and Veyron are sitting, both of them lowering themselves into chairs without hesitation, showing her that they're bound by the same rules, that they're not standing over her, not trapping her. Marin takes her own seat, hands folded calmly in her lap, and waits. Ara's breath shudders out. She forces herself to move, one step at a time, until she reaches the chair farthest from the door. She sits on the very edge, muscles coiled tight, ready to bolt if she has to. Marin's gaze is steady and patient. Ara, I know you're frightened. I know you've been hurt. And I know the idea of being locked in here feels like a betrayal of the promises you were given. Ara's jaw tightens. She doesn't speak. Can't. But I need you to understand something. Marin continues. This tradition exists to protect you, not to trap you. When someone enters this room seeking mediation, the door is locked so that no outside force can interfere. No pack leader can demand entry. No rival can challenge the process. And no one inside can leave in the heat of fear or anger without hearing the full truth first. I've heard plenty of truth already, Ara says, voice brittle. They told me their stories, made their promises. What more is there? Marin leans forward slightly. The question I'm required to ask, the one that decides everything. Ara's heart hammers against her ribs. What question? Do you want them? Marin asks simply. Not as protectors, not as safe harbor, but as mates, as partners, as the ones you choose to build a life with if fear and pain weren't part of the equation. The words land like a blow. Ara stares at her, mouth opening and closing without sound. She hasn't let herself think that far ahead, hasn't allowed herself to imagine what wanting them might feel like separate from survival. I don't know, she whispers. I don't know them. Then let's start there, Marin replies. Kale, Veyron, tell her why you want her, not why you feel responsible for her safety. Why her? Kale shifts in his chair, hands resting on his knees. He looks at Ara, and there's something raw in his eyes that she hasn't seen before. Vulnerability, maybe? Or hope. When we scented you 3 nights ago, he says slowly, it wasn't just fear we smelled, it was strength, determination. You were terrified and hurt and running for your life, but you didn't stop. You kept moving, kept surviving. And I thought if someone that strong chose me, I'd spend the rest of my life making sure she never had to run again. Ara's throat tightens. She doesn't know what to do with those words, doesn't know how to hold them without breaking. Veyron speaks next, voice quieter but no less intense. I've been alone since I lost Lena. Didn't think I'd want anyone again. Didn't think I could. But when I saw you in that hut, scared and defiant and still standing even after everything you'd been through, I felt something I thought was dead. And I realized I don't want to be alone anymore. Not if there's a chance you might want me to. Tears prick at the corners of Ara's eyes. She blinks them back, but they come anyway, hot and fast and unstoppable. I don't know how to do this, she chokes out. I don't know how to trust that this is real, that you won't change your minds, that I won't wake up one day and find out it was all a lie. You won't, Kale says firmly, because if you choose us, we choose you back. Fully. Forever. And that bond is built on truth. On consent. On both of us showing up every single day and proving we mean what we say. Marin's voice cuts through gently. Ara, no one here expects you to have an answer right now. But I need to know one thing. If fear wasn't holding you back, if the past wasn't weighing on you, would you want to try? Would you want to see what this could become? Ara closes her eyes, and in the silence behind her lids, she sees her sister's face one last time. But instead of pain, she sees something else. A whisper of encouragement. A quiet permission to choose differently. She opens her eyes and looks at Kale and Veyron, these 2 men who tracked her through the forest, who waited outside her door, who wrapped her ankle and caught her when she stumbled and promised her freedom even as they asked her to stay. I want to try, she whispers. I'm terrified, but I want to try. Marin's expression softens into something that looks like relief. She rises slowly, and crosses to the door, sliding the bolt free with a heavy, metallic click. The door swings open, and cool evening air spills into the room. Ara stares at the open doorway, at the freedom she could take right now if she wanted. But she doesn't move, doesn't run. She stays.